Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another edition of To The Point podcast. As always, I'm your host, Noah Warren. We're on Tuesday night, a couple hours away from the World Junior Gold Medal game. But before that, I'm here with Shamus, like we are every Tuesday. We finished up watching Next last week. A great finale, a great first show that we went over. But Shamus, he's like, we're switching it up. We're going to Your Honor. Cool show on HBO. We're going to recap the first two episodes tonight. But before we do that, Seamus, Happy New Year, and how are you?
Good, good. Happy New Year to you too, and a Happy New Year to anyone listening. I guess it was a quiet New Year's, obviously, but it was still nice to see a couple people and definitely get rid of this year. It was an all in all kind of shitty year, so I put it behind us, and it feels like a new beginning, just us entering into a new show.
Yeah, unfortunately, there wasn't enough people who just didn't do that much on New Year's because back in
Yeah.
Orange today. Thank God the gyms are still open because I was ready to have a nervous breakdown at work. But for my mental health and the people around me, I'm glad that I can at least go there.
You're in a better mood every time you get to go to the gym. I saw the one day that you didn't get to go and you were livid about
Yeah.
not. Well, I think it was the key was not working or something like that.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, so I'm happy for everybody as well. As long as the gyms are open, everybody's in Kent County is safe. That's all that matters.
Yes, no, fair point. So tonight we're gonna be talking about Your Honor. Your Honor, it stars Bryan Cranston. If you don't know Bryan Cranston, he was in Malcolm in the Middle. He was in Breaking Bad, the GOAT. And it's this show is a lot different than Breaking Bad, but I do think the character that Bryan Cranston portrays has some similarities to Walter White.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assumption. Maybe a good guy on the surface, but deep down maybe has some demons. We definitely see that in Walter White and how dark he gets in that series.
Right. So yeah, just to kick off the episode, it's an interesting start because we don't really get to know the characters' names for a long period of time and how they're connected. It starts with um, an older guy who turns out to be Bryan Cranston running in. It turns out the show set in New Orleans. We don't really know that at first until later on, but he's running. We see a young kid with an older woman just finishing up having sex. And we learn that this character's name is Adam, and he's actually having sex with his teacher.
You get right into it. I thought we were going to save that for the second part. That was shocking to me. I thought it was another student. I thought it was his girlfriend, to be honest.
Yeah, I did
You're
at first,
maybe
but I put it together by the end of the first episode.
how, but I didn't understand. Maybe I wasn't paying that attention, but for people looking, she's not like a clear 50 or 45-year-old. Like
No,
this girl's in her 20s, clearly. So that's why I didn't understand. And then the in the second episode, we'll get into it after how it opens up. But how did you know through the first episode?
I think it's a quick reference. She says something like, I got to get to class. And I get what you're saying. Like they look like they were classmates, but the way they're getting dressed and just the way that it was kind of frantic, I saw that her bag was a little bit different than, say, a younger woman.
Fair enough.
I kind of made the assumption that, okay, this woman is not, your 16-year-old female.
Mhm. Yeah, I thought he was just getting the old quickie before he goes to school, and
Right.
then then he hits class, and hey babe, how's it going during class? They're clearly freaks on the outside.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, and yeah, this Adam kid, we learned that he's basically got his own house. I mean,
Yeah.
there's a home, and then in the back of the house, there's this ensuite, and it's a pretty sweet little pad. I mean, it
Oh,
rivals my loft back in the day. Like this place is legit.
yeah, this is definitely one of the nicer. If you're any 16, 17-year-old, this is your dream place. It's basically your own little house and I mean, it's in their parents' backyard
Right.
still, but at the same time, I mean, it's essentially your own place, really.
Yeah. So, exactly. And this Adam kid, his teacher, that we, like Shamus said, we both kind of we figured out different parts, but we learned that it is his teacher. So he starts his day. He's kind of doing laundry. He's giving his dog Django his medicine, and we see him take off with this photograph, and we don't know what the photograph is, but at the same time, this is kind of interesting camera work. Bryan Cranston is running through a cemetery, and he stops at a headstone, and we figure it out. It's not really mentioned yet, I don't think, Shay, but it's we just you piece it together as a viewer that it's his late wife.
Hmm. Yeah, exactly. Just to reiterate what you said, it's a really cool shot of him going through all, jogging through all these tombstones. 'Cause at first I'm like, what psychopath
Right.
voluntarily runs into a graveyard just as a casual jog? Nobody in the world
No,
does that. But
no,
if you do have a, go ahead.
I agree. I thought the scenery was really the cemetery itself was really, really cool.
Yeah, yeah, oh, 100%.
So he's running through, and this Adam, his name's Adam Disiato. We learn after that he's the son of Michael Disiato, who's Bryan Cranston. And for this podcast, I'm just going to refer to him as Judge. I think that's just easier, Judge, and then his son is Adam. We learn later that he is a judge, but Adam drives to a convenience store in a lower income area. So in this area, it's mostly African Americans. You can tell that it's very impoverished.
Hmm.
Not a lot of nice buildings or people with wealth. And he places a photo at the edge of the convenience store, and it's really confusing because we don't know why. And I won't spoil why he does it in this episode because we don't learn until episode 2. But he places it there, and within seconds, black men start coming towards him.
Hmm.
Now, what did you think watching this? It was a little confusing as to why they were so angry about this.
Yeah, yeah, it was definitely strange because, um, you know, everything from him putting the picture down, you kind of understand that, maybe someone passed away there. I didn't put it together yet that it was his mother.
Either.
But I mean, obviously that comes into play later on. But yeah, it was super strange. Like they were really aggressive. And the first thing I think of is like, okay, if it's night, I'm probably gonna get robbed. But it was plain as day. Like
Yeah,
he
it was
wasn't doing this
nine,
he
ten
wasn't
o'clock in
doing
the morning.
this. Yeah, exactly. So he's, probably just on his way to school or something. And he, lays this down. But you're right. They kind of swarm him. Like they kind of give him like the F you better get out of here vibes. And sure enough, he just takes off in his car.
Right. So he's kind of panicking. We learn that he has asthma, and he's hyperventilating, getting out of there. And while this is happening, we get to see another family, and it's a very wealthy family. We see this home, one of the nicest homes I've ever seen, just
Hmm.
incredible. This house it reminds me of old England, where they just have these beautiful, beautiful statues and just great marble. And we see this young kid, and his name's Rocco, and he's given by his father a 1974 vintage motorbike for his birthday, and it's it's cool. I'll say it's a cool looking bike, and of course he takes off right away to drive it.
Yeah, no, that's there's some chatter going wrong with the family. There's a, mother, daughter, and then father and Rocco, obviously, and they're
Mhm.
kind of bickering. And it's kind of cool. Like the dad's looking outside. He's like, "What the hell is that on my lawn?" And
Right.
immediately everybody get up, and of course they go out, and it's this motorbike. But yeah, no, it's a really cool scene, and obviously I'm not. I don't know. I don't even think I could ride a bike, but it is super, super, interesting, old looking bike, which I think is kind of cool.
Right. So we don't really know who this family is. We just know Rocco's name, and we know that they're wealthy.
Yeah.
So during this time, Adam kind of does a lap of the lower income neighborhood, and he circles back to the convenience store. And when he comes back, he sees that the photograph is smashed. And when he looks to his left, black men are coming at him faster than they were the last time. So, of course, he takes off, but so fitting that it's a show. Of course, his car is low on gas. So at first I'm thinking, Shay, okay, he's gonna run out of gas and he's gonna have to deal with these guys. But something much worse happens before that can take place.
Yeah, so he's speeding away. He's getting chased at one point by a black SUV,
Yeah, Suburban.
and they're catching up on his ass. And like you said, like when you have asthma, and I don't know a whole lot about it because I don't have anyone in my family who has it. But automatically when he's getting panicked, the first thing he's reaching over for is this inhaler, and he keeps looking for it, trying to open his it's actually ironic. He's trying to open the drop box or the glove
Yeah.
box, sorry, to get it, and of course the glove box won't open, and he's just speeding and speeding. And then out of nowhere, he hits a motorcycle, and it's kind of a big scene. I'll let you go into more detail, but it's way more graphic than I thought it was going to be initially.
Agreed completely. He hits the back of the bike, and the back of the bike gets stuck under the hood of his vehicle. So he's driving with the bike underneath him, underneath the vehicle, and we find out that it's Rocco, of course, that he hits. And Rocco getting hit, he flies off the bike, and it's it's a pretty it's a pretty it's a scene that's very graphic. Like you said, there's blood everywhere. You see Adam hyperventilating. I thought the acting was very well done. Just the way he couldn't really put a speech together, which I think is accurate in most of these situations. And eventually he gets out of the vehicle after a long period of time, I might add. He's sitting
Yeah.
there not knowing what to do, kind of hyperventilating, and he gets to Rocco, and Rocco's leg is basically turned the wrong way.
Yeah, like it's if your kneecap was facing the same way as your back. It's pretty disgusting.
Yeah,
He's just kind of laying on the curb, like like back looking up, and obviously also worth noting that Adam, who hit him, must have broken his arm. He took his seatbelt off, I think, to grab his inhaler, and
yeah,
as he did that, the impact of him hitting the bike must have just snapped his arm. So he's kind of just like holding his arm, walking over to him, trying to see what's going on. Also worth noting that the black SUV, the Suburban that you said,
yeah.
it drives closer and then does like a 180 and
Turns
just
away.
bolts it
Yeah,
out of there because obviously they don't want to be caught doing it. But I think that's going to come into play later on in the series.
absolutely.
Uh, it didn't say anything about the first two episodes that I watched. But yeah, and then I mean it's a pretty gross scene, I would say. I have a pretty tough stomach, but I had kind of a hard time watching what happens next, I guess.
Yeah. So, like Shamus said, the Suburban turns away, and where he gets hit is literally in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
There's nobody around but a stray dog. So Adam hits him, and he calls 911, but only after Rocco died. Rocco was coughing up blood like crazy. It got onto Adam's shirt. Everywhere on him was kind of covered in blood, and he only called 911 after he was dead, which we can talk about. But the biggest thing is he calls 911 and he doesn't say anything, and
You can't talk.
he can't talk. He needs his inhaler. He's kind of just like on the
Yeah.
call, and it's it's another scene where it's a powerful scene because he's crawling to the car looking for the inhaler,
Mhm.
and eventually he gets it. But even then, Shay, he doesn't say anything worthwhile to the 911 operator.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. He pulls, and this whole time, I think he's using Rocco's phone, which will
He
come
is,
into
yeah,
play later on. Um, but yeah, like
which is
it's
even more
it's
interesting to me.
yeah, exactly. That you're not trying to use your own phone. It's he's in a clear state of shock, 1,000%, which I
Yeah,
think anyone would be after seeing that. So yeah, it's like you said, like he was leaning down towards him, the blood got all over him. This guy's puking up blood.
yeah,
Um, very, very graphic. If anyone has a weak stomach, might want to just look over that one. But yeah, no. And then he gets in his car and he proceeds. He panics clearly and he tries to make a bolt for it. He's moving away. The bike is lodged underneath the car, so
Yeah.
it's kind of stuck there. And then eventually he just kind of pulls it and pries it enough that it gets off, and then he just bolts it, takes off.
Yeah, like you said, he finally gets the bike dislodged. He takes off, and he's in a state of shock. But just to reiterate, he's low on gas, so he's covered in blood. He's driving around this low-income neighborhood, and he pulls into a gas station, and he has to throw the sweater on just to cover the blood, make it not seem too suspicious. He starts pumping gas, but he's taking forever. He's really fidgety, and the guy behind him starts laying on the horn. So he gets a little bit of gas and leaves the pump because he's just so lost. But also, he hung up on the 911 operator, and they continue to call him back. So Rocco's phone continues to get 911 calls, and he keeps avoiding them.
Yeah, no, exactly.
So he's freaking out. All this happened, and he, like you said, complete state of shock, and he goes to a river, and he actually throws the phone into the river after a 911 operator had just called again.
Yeah, this is a panic move, and obviously, like, I mean, I think at this point, he knows he does wrong, but he's same time, like, he's covering up his tracks. It's like it's not a good look by any means. And I don't know whether he knows, like, he waited for Rocco to die.
Yeah.
And then maybe he thought, like, the damage is done, like, I just gotta, like, get rid of this and move on, and basically cleanse myself of what I just did.
Right. Yeah, it's quite the scene. I mean, so all this is happening, like you said, a panic move, and we'll flip back to Judge Michael. He's an interesting judge. That's how I kind of wrote down in my notes. He pays close attention to detail. He's got a great BS meter, and he's unorthodox. So he's doing this case talking about a shotgun house. So basically, if you guys don't know what a shotgun house is, it's basically the whole floor plan is open. When you go in there, you can get to the front to the back of the house without really having a wall in there to stop you from seeing anything. And this cop was saying that he saw this black woman put drugs up her vagina because it was a shotgun house. But Judge was calling him out on it. And an interesting scene, Shay, he called the son of this woman up to talk to him on the stand, which was really interesting.
Yeah, he's basically guilting this cop, or he's trying to bait this cop into feeling guilty, because at this point he already knows the cop is lying to him.
Yeah.
So he's trying to see if the cop will change his mind, because this is obviously, it's a single mother. There's multiple children in the mix. Yeah, it's worth mentioning that he, on his run before he comes to the courthouse, he visits this actual house.
Yeah.
So he doesn't say anything. He walks right up to the door. He looks through it, which is how he knows that there's no way that this cop could have seen this woman putting anything up her drawers, because you can't see the bathroom door from anywhere. You can just look right through it to see outside for the backyard.
Right.
So yeah, so he calls this kid up.
Homework.
Yeah, exactly. Which, I mean, like, he doesn't have to. I don't think, like, a judge is not, a judge is not required to. Yeah, exactly. So you're right. Like, he's 100%. He's an interesting judge. He's a different judge, but he was fair and he was honest towards this woman who he didn't know a thing too.
Right. And at first, we kind of think he has a high moral compass, because he says to the cop, "You're a liar of the worst kind," because he knows he's telling a lie, and he's trying to hurt this innocent woman for no reason. But in pivoting, the judge goes home, and he learns that his son Adam has just committed a murder, and
Mhm.
kind of all hell breaks loose from there.
Yeah, and you're right about him, pointing out that the cop was, an all out liar. But throughout the next two episodes and from after that point, like it kind of seems that that's all that the judge does is lie, really.
Right. So at first, Adam kind of tells him the whole story, every detail, and it looks like the judge is, he's a judge. He's going to tell his son, okay, obviously this is a tough situation. Maybe we can get a plea where you are in distress, and we can say that we can get a good lawyer. Who knows? And Adam's kind of accepting this. He's like, I'm going to be going to jail, and the judge calls Nancy Costello, a detective he trusts, and they head to the station. And it's kind of an awkward conversation because they're talking about what jail that Adam will be going to. But when they get to the precinct, this is when everything changes from the good judge to a new person.
Yeah, well, it's essentially like he's going against everything that he went to school for, and everything that he believes in, essentially, because he throws that right out of the book. What happens is he looks down one of the corridors of the precinct, and he sees a man holding his wife as she's crying, and he clearly gets a good look of her. And then all of a sudden, that his whole entire persona changes
Mhm.
from like it just looks like he's in shock and like almost a little bit of scared. And then he goes out and to tell Adam what he now knows.
Right. To me, it was almost like a little vindictive in the sense that he's kind of thought, I'm not going to let my son go to jail for this guy. And we learn
Oh
as
yeah.
he gets outside, he tells Adam, get in the car. And Adam's like, well, I thought, he's like, no, get in the car. Let's go. And he said, we learn that Rocco is the son of Jimmy Baxter, and he's one of the biggest crime families in New Orleans, dealing with drugs, killing people, just a really bad person.
Yeah.
And the judge the judge is not going to let his son go to jail for killing this Baxter's son.
Okay, so this is how you're perceiving it, as
This is how
like,
I'm perceiving it, just because he stares at him, and it's almost like, this prick. This is okay. Obviously, it's sad, but this bastard's killed so many people, and my
okay.
son's going to go away for this. No, I
Yeah.
don't think
I,
so.
I had a different view on it, and maybe that's just me watching too many mob movies. But
Mhm.
my view was just out of pure fear of what he could do.
Right.
So
That's true.
like
I
if
mean, if he's in
like
jail, he'd be an easy target.
even before he got to jail, say, and I mean we'll go into a little bit more in the second episode and what we see in the second episode.
Right.
But yeah, like that's my first initial thought is, okay, like this judge knows, he's probably seen 100 cases where this Jimmy Baxter's guy name brought up. He knows the exact
He's
murders
involved.
and everything that he's done. Yeah, so he knows that what he's capable of and what he could do to his son. And he's like,
Right.
you know what, like you're better off. You're right. He's like, you know what, you're better off not turning yourself in, and we'll try and do our best to cover this up.
Yeah. No, I see your point completely. Just hearing your point, I kind of think of Goodfellas a little
Yeah.
bit. That movie comes to mind where if you get behind bars and you've screwed over the wrong person, you don't have a long shelf life. And
Yeah.
knowing what we know in the second episode, that could very well be true.
Hmm.
So they leave, and Adam's kind of, obviously puzzled. He tells him about Jimmy, but the judge gets home and he springs into action. Adam kind of disappears for a while in the show, but the judge starts doing laundry. He realizes there's blood everywhere in the laundry, starts cleaning it up, throwing out every piece of evidence that can be tied to Adam. He goes out to the vehicle that hit Rocco. We also learn that it's his late wife's car, so it's under her
Yeah.
name, but it's known that Adam drives it, but that's still kind of a gray area at this point.
Mhm.
And the he's cleaning everything up, and but also at this time he's cleaning everything, and this is one probably my favorite scene of the episode. He's doing laundry, but we hear the TV come on in the background, and it's Jimmy Baxter. And in pure mafia fashion, he says to the camera, knowing that he can't say what he really feels, but he says, "Whoever did this, just know, whoever you are, we will find you."
Yeah.
And he's not talking about the police. He's
Yeah.
talking
He is.
about his goons killing the person responsible.
Oh, 100%. That's, and I mean, not that we don't know the answer, but uh, you know, knowing anything about the mafia, like it's an automatic death penalty if you mess with anyone in their direct family.
Mm-hmm.
So, something as bad as this is definitely like you're probably going to get tortured and you probably will be killed. And you're right, like as he's looking, and it's crazy because he's looking directly into the camera too. So it's like he's looking directly at the judge, which I thought was kind of cool.
No, exactly. And um, we also see the judge. We mentioned he's cleaning up all the garbage, getting rid of the evidence, but another this is another thing where he's a liar, and he's a pretty good one. He takes the garbage and he throws it over a bridge in New Orleans, but a cop throws his lights on. So you're thinking, okay, he could be in trouble, but he fakes like he's taking a piss. And the cop's like, "Oh, you're pissing on the bridge, like come on." And he heard from somebody earlier in the episode that I think it was somebody on trial that they had. I think it was the cop saying that he had prostate cancer,
Yeah.
or the lawyer, sorry, the opposing lawyer in the case, that he had prostate cancer. He tells the cop, "I'm sorry, I have prostate cancer. I can't help it. Like I have to go."
Yeah.
And of course, the cop buys it, but it's not about the scene itself. It's more about the judge continuing down this path of lying to get ahead.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly, to cover his ass, really. The
Yeah.
first thing I thought of was, oh, maybe this cop is gonna like tell him not to jump. Like maybe he's
Right.
trying to prevent a suicide, but no, he totally turns it away. And I mean, it's a funny scene because like you're like, oh, this asshole just completely used an excuse that he doesn't have. Like he doesn't have prostate cancer, right?
Right.
So it's pretty funny.
Yeah. But you start. That's just another scene where I kind of think of Walter White, because he would do the same thing. He would just blatantly lie and get away with it most of the time.
Mhm.
Um, and the first episode ends. The Baxters go to the murder site, which I found strange, but the wife goes. She's crying uncontrollably. Jimmy Baxter's kind of consoling her, and his goons are kind of scouring the area. And one of them finds Adam's inhaler.
Oh yeah. It is the ultimate like what the fuck is gonna happen scene because yeah, that they're gonna catch some kind of sense of DNA. I know that some people I don't know if this is real, but I thought that some people actually had their names
Yeah,
on their
I thought
inhalers.
prescriptions had your name and like kind of address and stuff on it.
Exactly. So the first thing I thought was he was gonna flip it over. It's gonna have Adam's name on it, and they were gonna know exactly who did it. But no, and you say it's strange that they want to visit, but I find that most people actually do end up visiting the sites where they have a family member killed or not. Um, I know it's a weird thing, but I do find it happens quite often, like in just in real life cases as well.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It could be. I just thought maybe that quickly, like the same day, like you're gonna go. The blood's still there. Like it's still pretty graphic, but
Yeah.
a great end to the first episode where, like you said, they don't know whose inhaler it is, but they do have it. So
Mhm.
it leads us into episode two. Um, and episode two starts interesting enough with Jimmy Baxter listening to the 911 call. And this is really he keeps replaying it over and over. We don't hear any words the whole scene. This goes on for must be 30 to 45 seconds. All we hear is Adam's being unable to talk, but I don't know if he's listening to it for fuel to try to find an answer, but you can see the evil in his eyes and wanting that revenge in this scene, which I thought was very powerful.
Yeah, dialed in, and you're right. It was a great kind of opening scene because it kind of sets the tone for how the rest of the episode went. But yeah, this guy's a clear psychopath because he's just sitting there looking at the wall, listening to this. I mean, you can tell right away. There's no way that he's gonna pick anything up off this. So
No.
he's doing it strictly just because like he's like, yeah, I'm gonna find this motherfucker.
Yeah. So he's listening to that, and the episode pivots to the judge talking to his friend Charlie. And Charlie's this black guy. He seems to be higher up. He might be getting in, trying to get like a Supreme Court position, or definitely a top-notch judge, maybe down the line. He seems to be very important. But
Mhm.
the judge goes to him and says, "I need you to do me a favor." And Charlie's like, "What?" He's like, "I need you to get rid of the vehicle, the vehicle that was in the accident." He doesn't tell him why. He just says, "I need it gone today." So this Charlie has some connections, and he calls Rudy Cunningham, and this Rudy Cunningham, of course, is a cop, a dirty cop, and he makes a call to, and they're making a series of calls, and a young black man gets a call on the street, and he's told to go repo the car.
Yep. Yes, introduces the hierarchy of how like a lot of these street gangs are maybe made out. Like these petty jobs are usually handed off to maybe the younger or the new members of these gangs.
Right. So we'll dive into that deeper later because it's
Yeah.
basically the key focus of the episode. But in the meantime, the judge and Adam go to his mother's gravesite. And it's kind of surprising why going back. The anniversary of her death was yesterday. So that's another
Mhm.
key point. Of course, the accident happens on the anniversary of his mother's death. We also learn in this scene that she was killed at that convenience store by a gunman that just came in and basically was desperate. And whether she tried to stop him or she was just wrong place, wrong time, she was shot and killed. But they go to the gravesite for a different reason. The judge talks to the guy at the front, kind of gives him a one liner and a little bit of a hard time. And it's kind of like, why? But they get to the gravesite, and the judge says, "We have an alibi." It's
Mhm.
like, he's not going to remember the date we were here. He's going to remember me saying that to you. They also go to this coffee shop in basically the projects of New Orleans, talking to this woman about shotgun houses, of course. And they're doing it all as an alibi so that if they are subpoenaed or if something comes up, they have somewhere they were that day and not at the scene of the crime, which is smart, but also very, very vindictive and calculated by the judge.
Yeah. I mean, he even makes a point to say that most alibis don't even hold up. And he's doing this solely because if Adam ever has to go on the stand, it's muscle memory to him that he was there.
Right.
Even if it wasn't on that day, it was close to that day. And he can visualize, that he was there and, feel that it was instead of, it'd be much easier to lie, even if you did it kind of, I guess.
Mhm.
And then went, instead of not doing it at all, I guess.
Right. No, it's smart, and I never really, we've never been on a stand, so we don't know. But I mean, it'd be pretty tough to remember December 8th. We're January 5th now. I don't remember December 8th. Like, I don't know what the hell happened that day. So having something to reference, it's not necessarily a lie if that's the thing that comes to your mind first. So it's giving him a little bit of a cushion, and at the same time, the judge is trying to help his son, but at the same time continue this spree of lying.
Yeah, we just see his expertise and what he knows in court, and he knows all the corners of how to get away with these things because he sees it all the time, right? So he's got a I don't say one up, but he's got an advantage on some of these people because he's just knowledgeable of all these things.
Right. So they leave there. Adam goes to school. He goes to the courtroom. But before he does, he runs into Nancy Costello, who's a detective who he called the day before when he was going to turn in Adam and he was going to just, go in, no questions asked. So he's going to put on the spot. He's got to come up with this why'd he call her?
Yeah.
And he said he didn't want to create a big stir about it because the car, again, he lies and says, I haven't been able to get rid of my wife's stuff. I think this might be an omen that, yesterday her car was stolen. And again, like he's saying, I could never throw out her blouses. Clearly a blatant lie. Like but she's eating it up and she says, well, no, judge, I don't think this thing's happened for a reason. I'm going to find that car for you, which he doesn't want at all.
Yeah, yeah. So it's for her, it's more of a coincidence that she was killed around this day and it was stolen on the same
Right,
day.
right.
And you could tell this girl, she's maybe she's a little intense, maybe a little too intense, I would say. But
Yeah,
you're right. I think his intentions were, oh, like she's just gonna let this one go, like that, she'll just let this slide, whatever. Like I don't really want the car back, anyways.
yeah.
But she's like, no, like we're gonna find this mother effer and we're gonna get this car back and charge him. It's
Right.
it's just funny how it comes back to get
Yeah,
him in the end.
exactly. So at this point, young black man who we learned is named Kofi Jones, who's 17, steals the vehicle from the home. The judge leaves the keys behind the front left tire. Kofi takes it, and he's driving along. Everything's going fine, but he's pulled over after a little bit of time by this cop. He's obviously panicking, and these two cops pull a gun on him, and he's arrested. And he's in the judge's car, and it looks like the judge is going to get his car back, no questions asked. But after it's taken back and inspected, there's a few more questions than originally thought here.
Yeah, so they bring it in, and the agent calls to get the paperwork done and to sign it off, essentially. And she's asking a lot of questions, like, oh, like, we were wondering how he got the keys, and he's like, oh, I always leave the keys under there.
When
And
I
he's
go
like,
for
oh yeah, yeah, like if I go for a run, or like I've just come accustomed to leaving the keys under the tire, and he's doing a really good job. But it's awful, like as they're driving the car outside this garage or this holding place where they keep it,
yeah,
um, a piece of Marco's or Rocco's bike, sorry,
yeah,
comes out, falls out, and then you can just see like he's trying not to give that shock, like, oh fuck, look, but like at the same
yeah.
time he is.
Yeah, he thinks he's got this thing, decently wiped clean. Like there's no clear reason to think that this was involved in an accident. So there is a small dent in the front bumper, but he's like, no, that wasn't there this morning. So whatever. But at the
Mhm.
same time, young Kofi, 17, kind of resourceful kid, he starts talking to this cop and he's like, I want to get out of here. And the cop's like, I don't really care. And he goes, well, I'll give you this Mariano Rivera signed baseball if I can get out of here. And the cop, we learn really early into this episode that these cops are not the greatest cops in the world because they can be bought for very little.
Yeah, yeah, that's 100% true, um, from what you've seen. And it's a long exchange between these two. This cop that's basically just sitting there doing paperwork, and Kofi, who's just waiting for something to happen, essentially, whether he's gonna be thrown in a cell or let free. Buys his way out with this, yeah, side baseball, like you said, and then we'll say he almost gets away, but eventually he stops.
Yes, so he's about to get away, And like you said, but at this time, the cop who Charlie, the judge's friend, made the call to walks towards him. And the cop, at first I thought it was the men of Jimmy Baxter who took him, but it was some rogue police officers who take Kofi to this abandoned house and leave him handcuffed for a while, and we don't really know what's going to happen to him.
Yeah. And at this time, I think it's worth mentioning Adam's going, he's kind of re-entering life after this crazy day that he just had, as he goes back to school, and, he's, getting into class. There's a scene where he's explaining, I forget how it went. He's explaining something lovey-dovey to the teacher that he was sleeping with in the first episode.
Right. And the judge, yeah, they have this awkward exchange where they're kind of talking about literature, but they're kind of talking about sex at the same time, and it's a weird analogy, but the two are both kind of weirdos, and they just kind of stare at each other in the classroom, and
Yeah.
that's a funny one. But so they, like you said, they bring Kofi, 17-year-old kid, to this abandoned house, and they ask him, "Where's the phone?" So they're clearly talking about Rocco's phone, and we're still kind of, in my mind, I was still kind of figuring out like why they took him, because it was kind of still up in the air, because they found the piece of the bike. So clearly Kofi would have been a suspect because he was in the car. So finding that piece of the bike would make him, a suspect for first degree murder. But these cops take Kofi to the house, but their purpose really isn't to find out where the phone is, but more to get Kofi to accept a guilty plea in court.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And we see a pretty, I've never seen this when it comes to torture and, anything mafia wise, but the van scene is a very strong scene. And
Mm-hmm.
essentially what happens is, they tie him up, they tie his hands behind his back, and they basically put his seatbelt in this van. They roll up all the windows, and they put the bottom one down just a little bit. And
It's
is it
basically nitrous oxide poisoning.
okay? Yeah, so they put a tube of that in through this van hole, and they just let it go, and somehow he unbuckles himself, gets him to the back seat, and allows himself to breathe, but he just passes out, obviously, and then finally they open the door.
Yeah, this was only the second time I've seen it in one of the Taken movies. I remember
Oh, you
Liam
did?
Neeson did it, of course.
Oh,
But yeah, it's pretty brutal. I mean, they have it in there long enough basically to not, just before he's dead. Like they start putting the windows down, and we pivot, and the judge gets a car ride home, and we're thinking, I don't know if I was when I was watching Shay, he's in the back seat of the cop car, and I'm thinking, okay, him or Adam is going to be a suspect here, because he's in the back seat of the cop car, he's sweating profusely, he
yeah.
looks really uncomfortable, but he gets home and they say, oh, our car's been stolen, it could possibly be part of a bigger crime here, and him and Adam are kind of off scot-free.
Yeah. Yeah. So the show gives no indication that he's actually just getting a lift home. So
Yeah.
you're right. I'm thinking, oh, like he's a prime suspect now, and like he's going to get interrogated. Um, and him and the cop that's driving him actually have a pretty funny conversation.
Yeah.
But, but yeah, no, essentially it's just a ride home. And then, key point, I guess, is that when the cop says, oh, you drive that beater, talking towards Adam, and Adam's like, oh, not really. And then after the cop leaves, his father gets mad at him. He's like, well, why the hell would you say that? So they have to be pinpoint, like everything has to be perfect for their story to line up. And the dad knows this, the judge, I guess.
Yeah.
He knows that their story has to be impeccable if they want to get away with this, which is something Adam's obviously not used to. He's never gotten caught in a murder rap before, so he's having a hard time keeping his story straight. But the dad kind of keeps him in check throughout the first two episodes.
Exactly. So he's kind of, it's interesting, as they get home, everything's okay, but we learn these rogue cops wanting to get Kofi to accept a guilty plea, but these rogue cops, we mentioned Charlie and Rudy Cunningham, the cop, they work for a bigger organization and it's called the Desire Gang. And Kofi's a part of the Desire Gang. And this gang, like you mentioned, it's basically like a pyramid. It's like buying that workout shit that everybody's trying to sell you. Some people get
Right.
money, some people get nine. You get on a little trip, and then you're fucking losing weight. I guess I don't know, but um, Kofi's boss told him to accept the guilty plea. He gets this call in prison from this burner, and he says, "Accept the guilty plea, and your family will be taken care of. You know, the money, you know, whatever. You know, it's just kind of a blanket statement. They'll be taken care of." And he says, "Well, Kofi's like, I didn't do it. Like, I'm not going to go to jail for this. Like, this is first degree murder. He's in jail 25 plus years." And he says, "Well, if you don't, you know, I can't guarantee your family's safety, their well-being." And it's basically a threat. He's basically saying, "Be a good soldier, stay behind bars for us, and it'll be okay. If you come out, you and your family could end up dead tomorrow."
Yeah, yeah, that's exactly what he says too. He's like, yeah, he's a good soldier, and then he tells, I think is it Rooney or is it
Yeah,
what's the other cop's name?
Rudy.
Is
Yeah,
it Rooney? Yeah. So he tells the cop, he calls him on the phone. He's just like, yeah, he's gonna be a good soldier.
yeah, exactly. So we then get to the court, and this is another interesting scene where the judge sits among the masses, and his moral compass is tested because he sits there and he lets Kofi plead guilty to first degree murder. It's it's an interesting scene because he had the ability to stop this from happening, but he lets this innocent 17-year-old take the fall for his son's mistake. And it's quite the scene.
Yeah, 100%. And it's worth noting that the judge on trial, the one not the judge we're talking about, but the other one,
Yeah,
actually makes Kofi to see if he has any gang affiliation. They
right.
basically strip half of his jumpsuit down, and they turn him around, and they're like, "Oh, that mark on his back. Yep, that means
Desire Gang.
he's affiliated." And it's a very like embarrassing kind of like a very like not cool thing to do at all by
Not
anybody
professional
involved.
whatsoever.
Yeah, um I forget what he's doing, but he's in a midst with this lawyer who he's talked to, who from what we can tell by the way
Yeah,
he talks, is a very
her name's
established,
Lee.
very high up lawyer.
Yeah, her name's Lee, and we can clearly tell that she's very good at her job. And it kind of seems like her and the
Yeah.
judge kind of have a little sexual history. That's how I kind of viewed it. But after, you know, the Kofi's mother comes up to the judge, kind of pleading to get her son some help. And it's at this point that the judge says, "No, I can't help you." But after the fact and feeling guilty, he says to Lee, "Can you please represent Kofi?" You know, I'm really embarrassed by the judge in this courtroom because he made us all look bad. So could you help me represent this young kid? I feel like he's gotten a bad rap here.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And I mean, this is the judge's way of doing something without having to expose the truth behind all of this, hoping that this judge will be able to get Kofi out of it. Essentially,
Yeah,
um, it's worth mentioning that they go the police interrogate him, go as far as to breaking into his home.
yeah,
Um, and I mean, we find this out later, but the woman that was on trial for Michael Disiato, I'm not even trying to say his name, but Michael the judge, the
yeah.
main character,
Disiato.
Disiato, that woman was Kofi's mother,
Yes.
and they break into that same house that the judge visits in the first episode, kind of as a as basically as an fu, like we're going to do everything we can to get what we want from you.
Right. And so like I said, the judge in my mind was just trying to clear his conscience in this scene, and the episode ends with Jimmy Baxter. He's got this pet bird, and you can tell he hates it. And he's trying to get it to fly away, but it doesn't. And he takes a putter and starts beating the hell out of the cage, smashes the thing to pieces, killing the bird in the process. And it really shows his temper and what he represents as a character, because he's unstable, he's very eccentric, and he'll do whatever it takes to defend his son and find the true killer.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just an unstable mind, 100%. And without killing anybody, you realize his true intentions through this scene, because obviously he has no problem taking life, and he's going to do it at will. And it took him at something as simple as this bird just not leaving the cage like he wanted it to
Yeah.
go absolutely ballistic.
Yeah, and I don't know about you, but I kind of think like the judge and Adam in the next couple episodes, they may be off scot-free for a while. I don't think that'll happen for the whole show, but we could see a battle between Jimmy and the Desire Gang here, because this Desire Gang, it doesn't seem like he's affiliated with it because it's mostly African Americans.
Yeah.
And I think we could see a big showdown in episodes to come here.
Yes. Yeah. So I said, yeah. So outside the court, well, yeah, exactly. So outside the courtroom, this, I would say, Jamie's right hand man, who's this kind of ginger. He's got an accent. I'm not sure where he's from, but
Mhm.
he's just like, yeah, like what do you want to do? This guy's affiliated with this gang. And they mention about maybe one of Jamie's guys roughing up someone from this gang, this Desire gang.
Yeah.
And then they say, like this is how they're going to respond to that. That beating was by killing my son. Like, I want them. I'm going to wipe them off wipe them off the face of New Orleans,
Yeah.
essentially.
The episode ends with him saying, "I'm going to clean this city up." And
Yeah, exactly. So
it's very vivid and it's very pointed, and we know exactly where he stands and what his goals are moving forward.
yeah, exactly.
So yeah, you mentioned before the podcast you wanted to talk about some of the laws you looked up. It's kind of a teaching time with Shamus. So could talk about the hit and run laws a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. I just found this interesting. I was just sitting at work today, and I was thinking, what are the actual laws in the United States over something like this? Because obviously they're serious here in Canada, but just for the Louisiana in particular, penalty for injury is no more than $500 and or no more than 6 months imprisonment. So that one's pretty light. But the penalty for death itself is death or serious bodily injury is a direct result of an accident when a driver knew or should have known that the death or serious bodily injury has occurred, is a maximum up to $5,000 or a maximum imprisonment of no more than 10 years. And then there's some other parts too, but that's the main gist of it. And what's funny is that these laws are different in every state across Canada. They're not one of them is the same either. So,
Right.
it's just funny. Like, I don't know if that was the idea to have it in Louisiana, so this would apply, but it was just interesting to know, like, what the repercussions were if he were to turn himself in at the end of the first episode.
Right. I kind of hope that they go into New Orleans culture a little bit and talk about maybe the poverty. Like, I kind of want to know how big the poverty rate is there. I know it's gotten worse since Hurricane Katrina, just with everything being wiped out and their economy. Obviously, it's been a while now, but it's taken a long time for that city to rebuild itself. So I'd love to see the show kind of take it in that direction and see, this Desire Gang, like how and what the people of poverty have to do to kind of make a living and live.
Yeah, exactly. And I think we will. I think because we're going into this direction of Kofi Jones and his lifestyle and his upbringing, maybe in the future, I think that is going to be brought up a lot more. And I hope we do get into this kind of gang affiliation and, you know, what it's like for maybe I would say a young black teen growing up trying to, you know, earn a living or support his family, because we find out through the
Yeah,
first
he
two
found a
episodes that
career.
Kofi is supporting his mother and his young kids.
Yeah, no, exactly. So yeah, he's got a couple siblings, you know, brother who mentioned earlier in the show that he's basically they're eating what a neighbor gives them. They don't really have food. So this family is very, very poor. And Kofi, he really had no choice in jail. He had to accept the deal because his family's in dire straits anyway. And if he can be promised a better life for them, he's going to take it no matter what. So I think the show, great start to the show. I'd like to see a little bit more character development when it comes to Adam. I know he's kind of having sex with his teacher, got into the accident, but I'd like to know more about him as a person because he's clearly weird. Um,
Yeah.
Maybe that has something to do with his mother's death, but I like to see a little bit more about him and what makes him tick. But yeah, he just a little bit more on him moving forward, and also yeah, I like just character development. You know, that's what makes the show good. So hopefully, with limited main characters, we get to see more of that in Your Honor.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. There's so many different ways the show can go to, through you know, ties with the mafia, through the poverty like we mentioned before, and, you know, this gang affiliation through the Desire gang, and, you know, just the background. And, you know, it we haven't even gotten even close to touching the tip of what could be of Adam and his, you know, his relationship with his teacher.
Right. No, it's so true. A lot more to come, but that's kind of our first two episodes here. We'll be back next week to talk about episodes 3 and 4 to see what happens with Kofi, Adam, the judge, and everyone else. But Seamus, rest of the week, what do you got in the docket?
Not much. Big night tonight. You already know that gold medal game for Canada, so I'll be staying up to watch that for sure. Supporting the boys. But other than that, not too much. As we're back in the orange zone, it's probably going to keep it pretty light. Keep busy with work, and yeah, keep myself out of trouble. What about you?
Yeah, same thing. Stayed up for the U.S. Finland game last night, so that was about a 1:15 bedtime for yours truly. I was up at 4:15, so that was about 3 hours of sleep. And I'll be staying up again tonight because I mean Canada is going to win another gold medal here back to back years. U.S. the second best team in the tournament, but Canada's going to wrap it up. Send Trevor Zegras and his punt bitch ass home. He can go home, go back to Anaheim, go do your little stare at the bench when you lose a hockey game. You know, do that in Anaheim. We're sick of it. But no, he's a great player. In all seriousness, he's fun to watch. But no, I think Canada wins tonight. 5-2.
Let's. Okay, I was just about to say, that's the bold prediction? We used to do this when we lived together, and we
Yeah,
used to see, and you're pretty accurate on most of your picks too. So you think it's a big 5-2 win tonight for the boys in red?
I think 5-2. Yeah, I think US will get a couple off Levi, even though he's been fantastic.
He's been hot.
But Canada's team this year, it's in their top 2 or 3 best teams ever brought here, behind the Crosby Phaneuf team of 03. That was just fantastic. But yeah, it's they'll cap it off tonight. Too many good players to lose. So 10:30 start. Obviously, a lot of people are going to be pissed off about that tomorrow morning when they're tired as hell going to work. But it only happens once a year, so you can suck it up for one night.
Yeah, 100%. And you know what? Just to reiterate on this, like Canada's team, to think about all this team without Kirby Doc, who by far would just be dominating in this. He'd be like a man amongst boys. So it's interesting. And this is by far the best roster, even if he's not on there, that we've had in a long, long time.
Yeah, no, exactly. So, yeah, just later on in the week, I'll be recapping the games tomorrow night. Thursday night, Ben Murray will make his return to the podcast. We'll talk about the NFL this weekend with the Super Wild Card Weekend, and also start my coverage of the NHL, talking about each division, previewing each division, including the Canadian division. I will have to talk about that one, so I will talk about that one, mix it in there.
It's
But
the best division, man.
what?
I said it's the best division. I mean, when else are you going to see McDavid take on Matthews so many times in one season?
Uh, eh, you know, so I like to watch other teams too. Like Nathan McKinnon's a lot of fun to watch. Victor Hedman's a lot of fun to watch.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
You know, I can watch Austin Matthews whenever because we know that they play every game at 8 o'clock. So it's not, it's tune in any night. But I'm just kidding. That'll be a fun division. McDavid against Matthews, the new look Montreal Canadiens will be very fun to watch. Who I think will be very good. But yeah, I'll have to have you back on. We'll talk about some hockey sometime soon. May have lost Shamus here as we're getting towards the end of the podcast. A little internet failure here tonight, but we got through it here. Enjoy the gold medal game. Expect Canada to lift the trophy, win the gold medals tonight. But for everybody. Oh, Shamus is trying to get back here. But no, I'm just gonna sign off here. Hope everybody enjoy the game tonight. For Shamus, I'm Noah Warren here to the point. Enjoy the game and take care.